Miko, is this yours?
Yep. Go ahead.
My name is Matt Spencer. I'm Keegan's father. I'm really kind of taken back by all the people that are here today supporting my son. I knew Keegan was a unique individual from the second he was born, but it took his death for me to find out how truly unique he was. We had towers from across the nation reaching out to us. What I didn't know is Keegan was connected in some forums. These towers, this young generation of towers, they're all connected through social media. Keegan was in this one forum that was over 1,500 towers from coast to coast. So this story has resonated across the nation. And that started early on. Our funeral home director had people from other states as far away from as Florida calling them and asking if they needed any help. He had never heard of such a thing. And he said, your towing community is pretty damn unique. For me to get funeral home directors from this all over this country calling to see how they could help us, because this was going to be a big funeral. My son is in this casket, Peyton and family, fellow towers. That's Keegan. Keegan wanted to have a final ride to be on the back of his tow truck. This is Olivia that's running the controls to tilt it down. While his family and friends carried his casket to and from that tow truck. I gotta tell you, Peyton, I went to Washington, D.C. last March with 60 fellow towers from all over the country. This magazine cover, I walked in to legislators and I go, this is my son. I instantly had their attention that we've got to do something in this nation. This just isn't a Michigan problem. This just isn't a Grand Rapids problem. That we have distracted drivers all over this great country that are not following the law and that are not moving over and slowing down for emergency workers. There are 2 roadside workers struck a day in the United States. Every 6 days, an emergency roadside worker is killed. And with the attitude of your mother and the, oh well, I know it's legal, I don't know how you can look at these law enforcement people that are in the room when their brothers and sisters are out getting struck on the road weekly. Just since Thanksgiving, I believe there's been 7 Michigan State Police cruisers hit, 4 fire trucks, 2 of them right in our area here, and 4 tow trucks have been hit just since Thanksgiving. You, Peyton, and your family have given me the tools to go across this nation with this magazine cover and get the loopholes in the law changed that you helped expose. That was from my heart.
Mr. Spencer, would you mind handing that magazine? I looked it up online, but I'd
Yeah,
like to actually see the physical
absolutely.
copy.
In here, we had 600 towers from across the nation. Came as far away as Kentucky to support our family. It was 7 miles from the staging area of all the tow trucks to the church. It took over 2.5 hours to park the over 600 tow trucks that showed up. That is the support that they were here for this young man. And
Thank you.
I have a profound letter. This is from a 7-year-old girl. Her mother reached out to me because this death has just devastated this little girl. Keegan was special to me. He was kind and sweet and friendly. He helped anybody with everything they needed. He was a kid like myself. He was my friend. That's Zoe. Keegan helped her mother. And that had such a profound effect on that little girl that she had reached out and wrote that. This was a letter that I got out of countless, I can't even tell you, hundreds of letters I've got. But this one was pretty special because I'll never forget the day I sent Keegan on this. It said, Mr. Spencer, my husband and I met your son when he came to our home last year to move a cabin for me. He was sweet, kind, enthusiastic, and very good at what he knew. Our hearts are broken over your loss. And when we attended the downtown procession of tow trucks, nothing will let us forget Keegan that day. Sometimes as parents, we are unsure of our methods, but it was easy to see that you raised a great kid. He will always have a small part in our hearts. I hope these treats bring you some smiles. These were folks that Keegan went out and helped. Countless stories. But this one was special because it was a very unique job. And Keegan, when I sent him out there, he called me back. He goes, I don't know how the heck I'm going to do this, Dad. And I'm like, dude, if anybody can get it done, it would be you. And it took him several hours, but he got it done. And it was a very impactful moment in those people's lives as well. So on November 4th, 2023, at approximately 10:45 a.m., my life changed forever. It was a colder but mild fall day, and I was walking out of my house to start my day when all of a sudden I heard an air horn from a big truck go by my home. I knew it was Keegan, because ask any of Keegan's friends, man, he loved that air horn, and he would blow it for as long as he could, right? I called him and we spoke about the 4 cars he had moved that day, where he was going, and that Lenora, his daughter, was with him. This was around 9 o'clock. I tried calling Keegan back around 10 or 10:30 because I'm like, man, it's gonna be a nice day today, and we were gonna start a hunting tradition. I went out and bought 4 hunting shacks, and I needed his help finishing up, getting those set up so we could start our new family tradition on November 15th. Which I know you can relate because you're an outdoorsman. At around 10 to 10:30, I tried calling Keegan, and I had no answer. It was weird because I knew where he should be at. He should be on the road. I didn't really think much of it. A short time later, I received a call from Keith Baker, who I met through Keegan, and we became close friends. That a state trooper just left one of his locations to go to a fatal collision involving a tow truck in Grand Rapids. I instantly told Keith, which Keith is in the room today with us, I go, Keith, it's him. I know it was him. I know what he was doing, and I can't get a hold of him, but he's not answering his phone, and I'll make some phone calls and get back to you. I called AJ, who is Keegan's best friend and co-owner with him from Towzilla, the partnership they just created a week prior to his death. That's right, Peyton. A week prior, my son was living his dream of being an owner of his own business with his best friend. I tried calling AJ 3 times. The first 2 times I just went to voicemail, and I just kept calling because I know something's up. On the 3rd attempt, AJ answered. Just by the tone of his voice, I knew it was Keegan. What I didn't know until later on is he could not answer the phone because there was a state trooper standing right next to him because he was fighting with the trooper to get my granddaughter out of the truck because she had sat there all by herself for at least 45 minutes because the police wouldn't let her get out of the vehicle. It was the safest place for her. The trooper said, AJ, don't you answer the phone. He goes, it's his dad. No, AJ, we're sending police to notify the family. And I just kept calling. He finally ended up walking away from the trooper and told me the truth. He ended up getting my granddaughter out of the tow truck so she had a familiar face. I was in shock and hysterically crying as I called Keith back and told him it was Keegan. I told my parents, as I was at their house at the time, I told them what had happened. I called his sister and I ran out to my car and started driving to the scene of the collision. I just did that. I don't know why. Out the door I went. As I was driving, I realized that this was going to get on social media fast. Who do I call? What loved ones do I want to hear this from me? Because I knew it was going to get on Facebook fast, which it did. It only took 15 minutes to get out on social media. As I drove up, I was hysterical. I called my best friend and business partner, Joe Detmer, because he lived right down the road from me, but he wasn't available to ride with me. So I started driving, and I had to keep pulling over because I couldn't see straight. I was crying hysterically, and then I would stop. And I go, oh my God, I got to call this person. I got to call this person. When I got up to the accident to get off from M6, the state police had the county had the road blocked, and they told us to go to the park and ride just north of M6 on Broadmoor and wait for MSP to come talk to us. Within an hour, we had hundreds of tow trucks just coming into the park and ride just to hang out and support one another. I've never seen anything like that. We just had a bunch of total strangers, a lot of friends that just came and hung out. Didn't say a whole lot, hugged, and were just there. Our towing family had lost one to a senseless act. Once the police came and informed us of the initial findings of the collision, we were told it was an early 20s female that lost control of the car as the vehicles in front of her car were slowing, and to avoid hitting said vehicles, she swerved to the left and struck and killed Keegan, who was outside of his truck. Speed was a factor. Speed was a factor. And don't know why cars were slowing, police said. But 45 minutes prior to the collision, the police had a report of a dog running loose, slowing traffic. But there was no evidence of a dog. The news media has blasted that. We have taken a lot of heat from social media. Do stupid things, stupid results happen to you. People were blaming my son for his death. As you and your family liked those comments, it was like a knife getting jammed into my heart. There is no evidence of a dog. None. And let's get that clear. Even with the news media, there was no evidence of a dog. No one knows why Keegan stopped that day. We can only assume that he stopped to help in a situation that he felt he could help, because he was a servant that way. Keegan was raised to serve. His grandpa served early on in the fire department, a volunteer fire department. We were instilled in that public service. That's why we were gravitated to the towing industry. Ask any tower in here. We serve the public even when they don't deserve to be served. We get beat up out there. We're getting run over. It's one of the most dangerous jobs in this nation. And it's just a slap in the face that you are even getting a misdemeanor on this. Keegan parked his trucks as safely as he could. and activated his emergency lamps and proceeded to exit his truck. Keegan was off the roadway when you came within a couple feet from the front of his truck and struck and killed him while his 16-month-old daughter watched. Keegan never would have stopped in that situation if he didn't feel his actions could help. It would have been difficult for him to turn around and get to his destination, and time would have been a huge factor in his decision to stop. AJ was waiting for him at the tow destination, and where he parked, he would have struggled to get turned around efficiently and fast, just like pulling off to the side of the road, do your business, and then just keep going. Peyton, you struck our son so hard he died instantly. After he hit the front of your car, and then he hit your windshield and went 45 yards forward. Did you get out to help him? Did you even try to save his life? What's the last thing you thought when he hit your windshield? These are all questions that go through my mind quite a bit. Once we picked up his truck from the scene of the collision, we went back to the park and ride to gather all that had come to support and convoyed back to Hastings. Well over 100 tow trucks had showed up. That was one of the hardest moments of my life. As one of my good friends and fellow tow business owners, PJ Daly, hauled me and my car back to Hastings. I couldn't drive, and I can only imagine what went through my friend's head as he just sat there with me as I cried. He was just there, and he's here today. What you don't realize as tow truck owners is every day we face sending our people out into harm's way. We live with that burden that our decisions can cost that person their life, and know that it's daunting on all of us, and we don't take it lightly. So as PJ hauled me back into Hastings and we pulled into the college, to the Kellogg Community College parking lot, I've never felt such sorrow with a hint of pride that my son had touched so many people that night. I couldn't believe all the just community members that came out and just hung out. And that night I gave 3 speeches that no father should have to do. Two were to news media, and one was to the crowd that gathered. What I didn't know was that day I was finding the courage to publicly speak. I'm not one to do that. I've never been one to publicly speak, and this has made me find the courage to tell my story to whoever will listen. Peyton, I cannot forgive you for killing my son. I truly don't feel you understand the implications of your actions that day. Your actions over the past year have proven you really haven't suffered a loss. You're delaying this court case along, not coming to court dates when Keegan's family showed up, and from you and your family laughing and smiling as you walked past us in the hallway. You reached out to Keegan's fiance and mother and stated there was nothing you could have done. Yes, Peyton, one thing you could have done was just slow down. Just slow down when you saw the emergency lamps. Does that ever go through your mind? You ever sit back and wonder what if you just would have slowed down? You had your cruise control set at 80. That day, you intentionally got in your car to drive intentionally safely. We all do that. You intentionally opened your car door to get into your vehicle. Intentionally put the key in the ignition, started the car. Put your foot on the brake, put your car into drive. So many intentional events took place for you to be driving And one intentional thing you could have done was to abide by the move over law. You could have slowed down, been off your phone in your car. On social media, you liked all the comments that people were making that said, my son created this. Your social media says that you're living your best life. And it seemed nothing has really changed for you. For me, life has changed a lot. The day you killed Keegan, we were going to finish setting up our 4 hunting shacks. Keegan and I had earlier in the year made a pact that we were going to start a family tradition with him and his kids. We're going to hunt deer. Keegan had wanted to do this for years, and I just didn't take the time. This was going to be a special year of first, I felt. I did get to go hunting, but without my kid. I cried a lot, talked to God, and I talked to you. That day you ended the Spencer name. Keegan was the last Spencer in my dad's family, I believe. You took my firstborn and my only son. A little girl only will know her daddy from someone else's point of view. She will never know a true father's love. A true father's love is when you will get pushed out of your comfort zone for the greater good of that child. You'll defend them, fight for them, let them fall, and help them back up. You'll do almost anything to protect them and to honor them. I'm honoring my son by leaving a legacy in his name for change. That I can change the driving public's behavior. You know, the behavior like yours. Your mom in her car recording how she knew she was breaking the law, distracted driving. Keegan may still be here today if you had just slowed down. I'm well on my way of learning how to publicly speak and now have found the courage to tell our story. That's correct, Peyton. You, your mom, Keegan, and I have been chosen for this story. I will continue to share this story all over the country as I've been doing for the past year. You and your family have given me the tools to use to make this change. Some of the things I have done, I have made one educational video with a company called Haas Alert, who has technology to alert a driver before they approach a tow truck or any emergency vehicle. My son was honored and had his name put on the wall of the fallen. That's where tow truck drivers have their name put on this monument down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, at the Towing and Recovery Museum. I spoke the day that my son's name was being put on that wall. I told Keegan's story to industry leaders and fellow family members who lost loved ones in the line of towing. Keegan's name is on the wall in Chattanooga, Tennessee, with hundreds of fellow fallen tow operators. You have helped me find the courage to keep telling his story as I went to Washington, D.C. and spoke to legislators and told them of my son being killed by a distracted, speeding driver. I've done several podcasts on the killing of my son, spoke at a first responder awareness event at the Michigan State Police Post in Taylor, Michigan, and now have the attention of the Michigan State Police, insurance companies, MDOT, MIOSHA. The Secretary of State has even heard your story. We're working with state senators and representatives to get the laws changed that you have seemed to have found the loopholes to get a simple slap on your hand. As the judge has already stated, she is leaning towards no jail time. I have gone to Lansing to the Capitol and walked from office to office finding anyone to listen to this story. I've become the executive director of Move Over Michigan, which is a nonprofit that is committed to raising awareness of Keegan's and other tow operators' deaths and near misses. To educate the public on the efforts of distracted driving and the need for a uniform move over and distracted driving law from state to state, I have networked with fellow tow operators throughout the country, and we are getting organized to start a federal nonprofit, and our story will be told to millions. You will be the catalyst. Your story, your videos, your and my story will be the catalyst for change. And it isn't just in Michigan. It's going to go all over. It already is all over. In the next week, I'll be doing an educational video with MIOSHA. my OSHA reached out to me because they know that this is a big problem, but they can't get family members to speak about it. I would encourage you to come along on that journey and tell your story so others will not make the same mistakes as you have made. Peyton, our story will be told until I get the nation's attention that speeding, distracted driving, not abide by the move over law, will no longer be tolerated. You killed a great man, and you need to pay for that. You either can pay that price today or tomorrow. The choice is yours and Judge Holt. I'm not the one to pass down the sentence today for you, nor am I to judge you today. If I were, you would spend at least 6 months in jail. Then you'd get work release, and you would spend another 3 months of going to jail at night. You get out at 6 o'clock in the morning and be back at 6 o'clock at night and spend every weekend in jail. And then after that, if you successfully get through that, you spend the rest of your sentence weekends in jail. You deserve to spend Christmas behind bars. We're about right. Our family, in the first 2 months of Keegan's death, we had his birthday, we had Thanksgiving, we had Christmas. You need to go without. It needs to be painful. You need to show to the public that there is a price to be paid for the negligence that you did. I agree with the paid child support to my daughter is 18. You took the earner out of that family. They're struggling, which they shouldn't be, because of some poor choices by a young 18-year-old driver. You have served me with a life sentence without my son, and I feel you should have to feel discomfort as well. You should have to go on the side of the road, sit there and find out how scary it is to have a car go by you at 80 miles an hour and 5 to 6 inches away from you. No one's going to stop me from telling this story all over this country. I feel sorry for you, Peyton, as leadership in your family has failed you, and it's obvious that your mother has had a negative view of the distracted driving law, and she has failed to teach her son the proper etiquette for roadway safety. I'm going to Washington, D.C. in February with fellow tow operators in the Towing and Recovery Association of America again, and we are going to be more united in our message, and now have this story and the tools you've given me for the example of why change is needed. In March, I'm going to Gainesville, Florida with Randy Meyer Racing to unveil the new NHRA drag racing slow down move over car and to tell Keegan's story to a national news media and the entire NHRA community. We'll be going to the Florida, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Texas, Maryland, and many other tow conventions to tell the story for the second year. I can no longer work in my towing business or get in a tow truck since you killed my son. You've taken away that. I don't understand how these young guys that get into tow trucks every day, I don't know how they do it. My life has been turned upside down, and every day I wake up, ask myself what I could have done 3 years ago to have saved my son's life. This has become my and Keegan's legacy. I will not stop until I get the laws changed and the motoring public starts respecting all roadside workers. In closing, I often wonder if you count your blessings. You exposed the loopholes in the move over law. Keegan's truck was 90 degrees to the road and not parallel. You get out of a 15-year felony because of that loophole. That the distracted driving law is flawed and now a time factor needs to be put into that law. You were on your phone 13 seconds before you killed a man. You should be going to prison. How can a state trooper hit a man at a much lower speed and face murder and homicide charges? You should be going to prison. As you are judged today, ask yourself this question. What do I want the ending of this story to look like? A man that stood up and was judged and sentenced fairly? Or a man who skated by, got the minimum that he could have possibly received? I will be telling this story to everyone and anyone I can. I promise you that.
Roberta, would you please hand this to Mr. Spencer?